My name is Ahmed Yassin Al-Daraji. I'm the director of Hanging Gardens.
اسمي حسين محمد. بطل فيلم جنان معلقة وعمري 15 سنة بس.
احنا دائما.
اسمك رمازن، ممثل فيلم جنان معلقة، مخرج أحمد ياسين، عمري 18 سنة.
أنا وسام ضياء، عمري 30 سنة، برج الدلو، ممثل من أقصى العراق.
You sent me back basically to 2006 and 7 when Iraq was in a big conflict, sectarian war basically, and the Americans were heavily existed in Iraq. The story comes from my personal experience. I was waiting for a friend of mine at the University of Baghdad, and it was tough in the street at that time where the Americans heavily existed military-wise in Iraq, and militias, Qaeda were fighting each other, and it was a chaos at that time. And a friend of mine was a bit late, and then later on he appeared with a plastic bag in his hand. And he says, guys, let's go to the toilet. And we went to the toilet, and he opened the plastic bag, and suddenly, basically, he revealed a sex toy. It was like a circle, it has a circle on it, and like a steering wheel. In the middle of it, it has the vagina. And for us, for Iraqis, I mean, it was the first time seeing something like it. It was so surprising for us. And the story comes from there, basically. My friend Athir took the toy and started basically giving it to the teenagers in the neighborhood. But one day, he called me, said, Ahmed, come, I'm in trouble, because he borrowed the toy and he used it. And because he used it, he boiled it with hot water, and the toy was completely shrunk. So this is where the story comes in the inspiration of the story. But what really made me write Hanging Gardens is the American film, is The Sniper. I've watched it back in London at Leicester Square in the cinema, and it was, for me as an Iraqi, it was an upsetting film in a way. Seeing an American sniper killing Iraqis, accused being terrorists for no reason, for no proof, it's upsetted me so much. That's why I went back and I wrote Hanging Gardens to tell basically what Iraqis feel post-invasion. I've worked around, and I've been working between London and Baghdad, and I live between London and Baghdad, and they're both radical cities in a way, one far left and one far right. And in a way, I have the privilege of seeing the two perspective, the two culture, if you want to call it, and what's being promoted about the region in general, and Iraq practically, it's not the full truth. And the mainstream media, it's been always telling a single story of it. I think being at the Red Sea and Saudi Arabia, I think it was very interesting for me, and I was so excited because I haven't screened the film in Iraq yet. And basically, we talk about sex doll in the city in Baghdad, and I was really looking forward to have the Saudi audience reaction and to understand how they felt about it. So it's very important, I think, for the region and Iraq practically. I mean, the Gulf, it's a tribal system, so we all connected. I have a tribe connected to the Saudis, to Yemen, so it's one root and one culture. And I think what the Red Sea is doing, it's for us as an Iraqis, is something huge, honestly. And we really look forward, basically, to look at the Red Sea in a way as a role model for Iraqis to do something like it in a way.
يعني أنا لأنه عايش ببغداد.
Because I live in Baghdad, I'm based in Baghdad. The first time I read the script, for me was a shock, and I was so scared. Because he trusts Ahmed, trust me, He
أقرب
took me
إليها
privately
بكل
to a space basically, and he
الفيلم.
was so
فقلت له
worried.
أنا
And I
أخاف
remember he was sweating, you know, at that time when we had the conversation. He
لازم
says, Ahmed, you need
توعدني
to promise me that we
تعطيني
don't
وعود
reveal so much
إنه
of the
ما
doll
تسوي الأشياء مثل ما هي
in the
موجودة
film if
هسه
we want to
لأنه
screen
أنا
that for the Arab
أخاف
audience. He was
أخاف
worried
على روحي
about it.
لا أنقتل. يعني كلش
He
متمسك
really wanted,
بكل
he really liked the film and he
يعني
wanted to do the
بنفس
role.
الوقت
And
خايف.
meanwhile, he was
خايف
so
من
scared for his own sake.
الأشياء اللي راح تصير ما بعد الفيلم. هاي القراءة الأولى.
That was his first impression, but because we worked together, we practiced together, and we've been reading and scouting and doing so many different things, he fell in love in the story basically. He digested the story and he believed in it so much, so he was not scared anymore, and he was willing to and excited to do more of the story basically.
أنا أول شي يعني من قرأت النص وهاي تفاجأت، يعني بالعراق ما صايرة قبل من هذا الشي، يعني دمية ويفعلون بيها شغلات مال كبار.
He was a
بالعراق ما
bit
صاير أبد.
suspicious and
أوكي.
excited
بعدين من
at
قرأت
that
النص
time, but he
وكملت
didn't
وشفت
know
يعني
the
شفت
story
هالشي
was
كلش
that
طبيعي
deeper
وانتبهت يعني
in an image.
مجتمعنا
And
دا
he watched
يصير
the
هذا
film
الشي.
yesterday, the first time he watched the film,
زين
by the way.
فصارت مشى وصورنا ونجح الفيلم والحمد لله.
Roughly, he was a bit surprised, honestly, and I'll say this is in his behalf. It wasn't that easy for me to get the kids practically. I mean, it's very sensitive story in a way. Both of them, it was hard to convince their families to get involved. I mean, as soon as they hear sex doll, they get frightened, and everybody. I mean, in the region, we didn't get that much funding, honestly, because everybody loves the story, love the secret. Says Ahmed, we can't really. Film is not about sex dolls, it's about the life of Iraqis.
وسنة على السنة
Things are changing and shifting so
أفضل.
much
سنة كل ما
because
تتقدم
they've been
كل
basically
الأفلام الأجنبية
they
والعربية
following
جاي يتطورون.
so many
مخرجين
material.
دا
It's
يبدعون،
been
أهل
published through
الكاميرا يبدعون،
platforms,
أهل
different
الصوت.
platforms
فإحنا
online. He feels
نرتاح من
that the
بوع فيلم
stories are different
أي فيلم كان
from
عربي إنجليزي
before.
إحنا نرتاح نشوفه.
أكيد يعني تتغير وكلش حلو جاي نشوف أفلام
Sin
كلش
more
حلوة.
excited about the technical side of
يعني كل
filmmaking
فيلم
than the
ينزل
stories. He's seen
عربي
things has been
في
advanced so
تغير هواي
much.
أشياء.
Visually, it's
أفلام
been
لا،
changing
أكو
so much
أفلام
though.
ينزلون
So
جزء
he's
ما
happy
بين
about
تغير،
it.
بس الأكثر بين تغير، وإحنا نفرح أكيد من نشوف في تغير بالأفلام العربية.
طبيعي إنه هي تتغير نوع قصص الأفلام.
Says the region, it's been
لأنه المنطقة هي مو مستقرة.
a mess
يعني
for
أكو
past
حروب
40
بالشرق
years.
الأوسط
Things not
ما
being too
يخلي
stable, you
باستقرار
know,
على الأقل
system
آخر
collapsing here
40
in
سنة.
in the region.
ف-
So he
فهاي
says
الآخر
definitely
40
it's
سنة هاي
changing,
أشياء هي
but
قابلة للتغيير. يعني
he was
أو
telling me
تصير
that he can't really call it
تخضع
a
لما موجود هو
development. Things
المنطقة
keep
لما موجود
shifting
بيه.
left and right here and there,
فنوع
but
الأفلام
in
يعني
not
ما
a
أعرف هو
very
علاقة
studied
تطور
way
أو
or
تغيير ما
strategic
أدري.
way. So
ما
yeah.
أعرف شنو يكون اسمه، بس هو كله خاضع للظرف غير.
I mean, yes, I think there are so many things are going on the ground in Iraq. Things are moving forward. I believe Iraq going through a transitional period, and the new generation of Iraqis, they so bright, and they look for the future. Because of the country's not being stable, and the history of Iraq being through all that hard times. But I really believe that, how do you say it? We have a free generation, a free in terms of non-radicalized left or right ideology. I think Iraqis are heading somewhere interesting and a brighter. This is my belief. So yeah, I think the stories of Iraq is more free now, and there are lots of interesting stories coming out of Iraq.